Hello, I'm Rick Cotton from CotLu Films. This summer we were invited to the Project Second Chance Torchlight Summer Camp in Fayetteville, North Carolina. While at that camp, we were given the opportunity to interview the keynote speaker, Dr. Benjamin Chase. Upon learning there was a young man at the camp, Mr. Shamar, who aspired to be a talk show host, we decided to give him his first break by interviewing Dr. Chase, and here it is.
Hi, my name is Shamar Sellers, and I am a student here at the Torchlight Summer Camp for the youth. I am here with the one and only Dr. Benjamin Chase.
How you doing,
Nice to
brother?
meet you.
Thank you. It's good to be on your show.
Thank you so much. The first question I want to ask you, in the movie Blood Inside My Name, Nate Parker played a younger version of you. Did Nate ever ask you for any advice for his character? And if so, what advice did you give him?
Well, thank you very much. Nate Parker is a very talented, gifted actor, and we did consult, but we consulted after the movie was made. I thought he did an excellent job in his portrayal in Blood Inside My Name. This was a true story from my hometown of Oxford, North Carolina, that happened in 1969 and 1970. And I believe that Nate Parker is one of the rising stars in Hollywood. He did an excellent job. And we've consulted, we've been on several programs, we've done several of the premieres of Blood Inside My Name. We got a chance to talk about his portrayal of me in the movie. And in fact, I'm working now on a book and hopefully a film about the Wilmington 10 case. And I'm sure that Nate Parker will also be a candidate to play me in that role.
Thank you. So the question is, what was your experience with the movie Belly? Since you was in it, what's your experience?
Right, the movie Belly was produced by Hype Williams. Hype Williams is a world famous videographer, and it was in 1999 that he produced the movie Belly with DMX, Nas, Method Man, and many others. This was a hip hop movie, classic. It dealt with the contradictions and the realities of urban life in America, but also had scenes in Jamaica. But there's a redemptive story to Belly. It shows that the power of not just words, but the power of expression when brothers get a chance to confer with one another. So that ending scene in the movie Belly, no matter where I go now across the United States, even outside the United States, people say, oh, that's the dude from Belly, as I played the minister in that movie. So, in fact, as a result of that movie, DMX and I became close friends. I've already was an associate with Nas, and hopefully we're contemplating doing a sequel to Belly, which would continue the redemptive story from that movie.
Okay. This is a follow-up question to that one I just asked you before.
Sure.
The follow-up question is, being that you had experience with the rappers in the past, with the movie Belly, what is your feeling about the usage of the B word and the N word in the music rappers today?
Well, I'm always encouraging artists, first of all, to be true to thyself. And I think the language that we use should be language that uplifts our people and not pull down our people. So I would encourage artists to avoid using the B word or the N word. But I must say something about these two words. I think that words represent certain reality. And I'm more interested in changing the social condition that sometimes these awful words bear witness to. You have to understand the reason why the rappers use a certain vulgarity in their language is because of the vulgarity of poverty, the vulgarity of injustice, the vulgarity of holding people and consigning people to less than an adequate quality of life. Keep in mind, hip-hop emerged out of the crucible of struggle, out of the crucible of suffering in the South Bronx. And that's why young people all over the world relate to hip-hop, because of this daring to speak truth to power. And sometimes when you speak truth to power, you don't necessarily use Sunday school words. However, I think the I tell people all the time, if you want rappers to stop using profanity, then change the profanity of the social condition that the rappers are rapping about. Stop, let's end poverty, let's end injustice, let's end the disproportionate incarceration of our people around the country. And then I think the language will improve. But the language will not improve till the social condition of the people improve. So yes, the B word, the N word, I advise rappers not to use it. But more and beyond those two words, I think we should all focus on improving the social condition, making better, so that we not only have something pleasant to rap about, but what we rap about bears witness to the reality of our improving situation, rather than our situation descending into some type of self-destruction. We should be ascending. We should be, hip-hop is aspirational, what young people aspire to in life. And I always want us to aspire to be the best of whatever we're involved in. Just like you, I want you to be the best talk show host.
If you could take me back in time when you was a little kid growing up, what would be the best place you would take me back?
Well, I'm a native of Oxford, North Carolina. I was born in January of 1948, so I grew up in the 1950s in eastern North Carolina. And I guess what I remember most as a young, growing young man, I was always searching for an opportunity to speak out, stand for freedom, stand for justice, but not just for myself. My mother and father taught at an orphanage. So my first years, first grade through seventh grade, I went to school with black orphans. And so I learned at a very early age empathy, because in the orphanage, a lot of times the facilities that they had were less than perfect. And I remember in the summertime, no one would wear shoes. Even though I had some shoes, but I was not going to wear shoes if my friends didn't have shoes. So I learned something about not just sharing an experience, but dedicating oneself. You know, I wanted a good life, but not just for me. I want a good life for all my partners. I want a good life for my friends. You know, when I would play marbles, you know, you ever play marbles? You know what that is?
Yes, sir.
All right. But I just don't want to win the game. I want to just take up all the marbles and go home. I want to make sure some of them, so sometimes I let my friends win. So it is about having a shared response, a shared responsibility for the reality that we face. So I knew that as a young person. I knew what racism was before I went to the first grade. I couldn't spell it, but I knew what it was, and I knew it was wrong, and I wanted to make sure that as I grew up, that I would have more and more opportunities to change the reality. So by the time I was 12, I was full-time foot soldier in the movement.
The last question is, how did Martin Luther King Jr. sister work with him with the civil rights movement? What did you learn from that, and how did you apply that knowledge in your everyday life?
Thank you. I was very privileged to work as the North Carolina State Youth Coordinator for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King's organization, from 1963 to 1968, for 5 years. Dr. King was killed in April of 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. So during my last years in high school and during the time I was in college, I worked for Dr. King. I was on the staff at SCLC. Dr. King was a great freedom fighter, a great orator, a great Baptist preacher of the gospel. But more than that, Dr. King was an organizer. He was a mobilizer. He would take out staff. He would go off to retreats. His concern was, and something that I'm going to share with you, you know, never lead somebody that you are not willing to go yourself. Dr. King believed in mentorship. He believed in preparation. He believed in getting a good education, but applying your education to your circumstances. That you go and learn knowledge, you go and learn facts about life, but after you get this knowledge, how do you use the knowledge? Dr. King believed, you know, he had a PhD, but he used his knowledge to the benefit of those that were less fortunate, that did not have an opportunity to go to college or go to graduate school. Dr. King was a visionary. and he required all those that worked with him also to be visionaries. Sometimes he didn't mean that you just had to share his vision, but everybody needed a vision. Everybody needed a dream. Everybody needed an aspiration.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Shay.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you so much for stopping by.
All right, so this is I'm doing your first interview.
Yes.
So when you make it now, when you're on nightly network television, don't forget about this interview.
I want to not forget.
All right, God bless.
All right, this is Shamar Sellers reporting live from Torchlight Summer Youth Camp, and I'll see you again soon.
Shamar did a really great job on that interview with Dr. Chase. It was so exciting to see the reaction that those young men gave when Dr. Chase was speaking. A lot of those young men didn't know who Dr. Chase was until he came and he was the keynote speaker at the camp. And the impact he had on those guys, you could hear it in their voices when they spoke after he was done. A lot of those men, young guys, said they've never been around a bunch of positive men. So I say, men out there, it's time for us to start giving back and reaching back and talking to these kids. Whether you have kids or not, if you don't have kids, talk to any kids you can find. They need us. Signing off for CotLu Films, I'm Rick Cotton.